check. Mic check. 1, 2, 1, 2. Mic check. Mic check. Mic check. 1, 2, 1, 2. Mic check. Mic check. Mic check. 1, 2, 1, 2. All right, all right, all right. Let's get it. This is going to be a bit rough. I did not do enough preparation. I thought figuring out this streaming thing was going to be super nice and easy. Turns out that is not the case. So much more respect to RG3. I thought if RG3 could figure it out, I'd be able to figure it out. But holy shit, there's a lot of stuff going on behind the curtain over here. Um, I decided to go anon for a little while, so let's see how that goes. Chat, if you can hear my audio, please let me know so I'm not just talking to myself over here. I see I have Hexologist himself in the chat. That is amazing, unreal. I watched him for a lot of days in a row going in. Um, so I would like to eat some humble pie here just in the name of RG3. Um, Great work on setting up all the streaming. Same to you, Hexo. Being behind the curtain over here is weird, and it is there's a lot of stuff going on. I thought I'd be able to just like click some buttons. There'd be a whole bunch of user-friendly tools to help me out. My plan for stream number one was to try to bust some health and fitness myths or answer some questions that people have about health and fitness. There is a lot of nonsense, a lot of misinformation out there. So maybe before I even start that, I will briefly talk about what I do or what I've done in the past. Um, I am currently working for a university in Texas. I am an instructor in the, let's say, the kinesiology domain or department. So I'm responsible for instructing 5 to 6 classes per semester, usually anatomy and physiology or physiology of exercise, things in that realm. I got that start by doing a bachelor's at a university, then a master's degree, and then went on to get hired there. And teaching has turned out to be pretty awesome. I am in the process of leaving this position and looking for other things to do. I really, really like talking health and fitness stuff, instructing, whatever it might be. Um, so I thought one thing that I could try is just to talk to people about their questions, their or their ideas, their current training programs, whatever it might be in that kinesiology, health and fitness domain, and try and at least dispel some of the myths, some of the nonsense that's out there, some of the rumors, or some of the ideas that are just totally, totally bunk and might even be harming people. So one, yeah, that is, I would say, my biggest goal here is to totally dispel any of the misinformation that's spread around. The health and fitness industry in general is completely hogwash. 99% of it are people out there peddling hot ideas or hot topics to try to make a dollar. Now, that happens in a lot of areas, and I'll bet you, as Hexicans, you've been trained to try to identify a lot of that stuff. But man, when you see someone trying to make a buck, or if there's like a prompt to make you pay at the very end of it, you're probably already on edge and looking for what the heck the catch is. So you're already ahead of the game here. I think with the training, if you've been in Hex for a while, you've gone through a lot of this critical thinking or a lot of this critical thinking training that Richard Hart kind of like puts out, which I've always found very, very attractive. And that's what attracted me to his streams and his content really, really early on, is that he didn't really buy into whatever the mainstream or popular idea was, whatever the consensus was. If he thought it was a little bit strange or a little bit off, he said, what the heck is up with that? Presented the evidence and tried to come to a more sensical conclusion. So my area of expertise is, I'm going to say kinesiology as a whole. More so, when I did my master's, my thesis specialized in the adaptations in response to resistance training exercise. Outside of that, I definitely have a broad depth of knowledge, but my main focus in my master's was adaptation to resistance training. But I really, really like talking about pretty much all of it, whether it's aerobics, so cardio, nutrition, wellness, any sort of health outcome, whether it be positive or negative, longevity, things that can affect mortality. things of that sort. So in the future, hopefully I can make this a little more bearable for people and for or a little more user friendly for people to join. I'll figure out how those boys. I like the countdown that they put on. I noticed I just created a Restream account because when I logged into YouTube to try to start the stream, it was an absolute mess. So Restream did seem a little bit helpful. There is a timer that I can just click. I do like the ones that the Knights do or the um, Wave 3, they've got one that's really, really nice. So hopefully I can make this a little more user friendly. I don't think I ended up getting any actual questions. The one question I did get on one of the actual tweets that I sent out, so I will go find that. Let's go find that. It had to do with the T-share price. It did not have to do with anything about health and fitness, which is totally fine. I know a lot about crypto and the crypto space. I've been in and following since 2018. I'm pretty much self-taught. I'm not very technically uh, I'm not very technically into it, so I don't know coding, I don't know developing or programming, but I do some deep dives where I get into the communities, into the deep dark holes of the web, in the deepest Telegram groups and the Discord groups, go look at some on-chain data, that kind of DD is what I do, and then check out the coin and go play with it and see how it actually works is the stuff I like to do, and then I kind of invest from there. So Hex was definitely the place or the one that has done the best. Obviously, that has become my largest holding, but I do like a lot of projects. For the purpose of this channel, I'll mainly talk about Hex. Maybe if we get some chat stuff, we'll talk about some shit coins. I pretty much call everything that's not Hex a shit coin. Or I guess for the purpose of this channel, we'll say anything that's not Hex is a shit coin. Okay, let me go find that question that somebody actually did post on one of those tweets. I just started kind of thinking of this idea last week, so I thought I would just pull some questions from you guys, and I think the question was, why does the T-share price in Hex only go up? Lol. So I think this was a little bit of a joke here, a little bit facetious from A-Bit Hex. Pretty funny though, because it is absolutely true. The T-share price only goes up, but there needs to be a little bit of context behind that. The T-share price in terms of Hex, if you are valuing the T-share in terms of Hex, only goes up. It's not like the USD number always goes up, right? Hex can fluctuate in terms of price, but the way that the T-share price is programmed, it will never ever go down in price in terms of Hex. And in the long run, I'd say most of us, especially if you're invested in Hex, have a feeling or an idea or a thought that Hex's value might go up as well. So if you get multiple things that are going up in value, then we're going to have a big compounding effect. And that's why we've seen such a dramatic rise in that T-share price. I think as low as 60 cents all the way up to, it did more than a 10,000x. It did a larger multiple than Hex did at its peak. So it went to the absolute moon, and we are going to keep going, I think. And that is why I am still around in the Hex community, because I think it is a project that has legs. It has a founder that has legs. It has a design and a model that has legs, and it's got users. It's got a community that is extremely driven, extremely competent, extremely smart in this area. Everyone I've watched stream and talk about this talks about this space in a very, very interesting, neat way and kind of a no bullshit way, as opposed to a lot of these other communities trying to hype up whatever product. No, don't get me wrong. I love hyping up Hex, but I'm also willing to talk about some of its shortcomings because I don't believe Hex is the only coin that should exist, as opposed to a lot of these other communities that are just maxis inside of their community because they're trying to pump their bags. Now, again, I love pumping my bags. I love watching my bags pump. So I will say great things about Hex all the time, but I think just everyone in this community is more of a realist and understands reality. A lot of this has been taught. A lot of this is just me parroting RH probably. Um, is that we understand some of the reality and we try to take the emotional response out of it. Now, would I like Hex to be the only coin ever? that would be amazing for me and my bags. Is that the reality that will happen? I don't think so. So, I'm not exactly sure where I ran off topic there, but that does happen from time to time, especially in my in my lectures. So I am currently lecturing for university still or instructing. But I love chatting health and fitness as well as crypto. So any of the questions that roll in from here on out, of course, can be pretty much anything and everything. I'm going to go look for some common health and fitness myths or some common health and fitness questions and try to bust those or kind of riff on top of those. If you are here in the chat, you can ask questions there. I'll interact with chat before looking for other questions to answer. That's what I would like to do. I think that's what I've enjoyed the most about this community is kind of seeing how many live streams are going on constantly. And my I guess my value pitch to the community is that I have a great deal of experience and knowledge in this kinesiology area that I really, really like to talk about. And I've noticed that the barrier to entry here is not is quite high. I won't say extremely high, but it's quite high. Um, and people, if you are first getting into this industry or into this area, there are traps all over the place. I can remember when I first decided to start working out, I was in college. I played on the golf team in college, and I was a bit of a shrimp, and I needed to put on some weight, and I needed to hit the ball far and get in shape, basically. And I can like vividly remember scrolling the internet and ending up on these just these absolute scam pages. Like, what was this guy's name? There was a whole bunch back in the day, but basically they would sell you on some hot title like uh, "Get abs fast" or whatever it might be, because everybody wants abs. Abs are nice. And then you scroll down this page and it ends up being some sort of PayPal link or enter your credit card here, and then you get a PowerPoint for how to use Mike Chang. That's his name. If you are a little bit older, so I am 30 years old. If you are born somewhere around 1990 and you were on the internet and you're into fitness at that time, you probably know that name, Mike Chang. He had these extremely cringy videos, but he was in great shape. So people were attracted to the product he was selling, right? So in this industry, one of the biggest traps is that there is like the fitness industry preys on these deep and powerful desires and emotions that people have. And if you're not prepared to handle those or prepared to break some of those down and kind of like think through them and around them, then you will fall into that trap. I can remember uh, I was in the program. I had just started, and I remember being on these like weird corners of the internet almost getting ready to spend my last like 1995 to get a how to abs program. He was always talking about this gimmick. It was the afterburn or some shit like that. It's absolutely unreal and so scammy out there. But I do think the Hex community is going to have a leg up here because of the filter that you have for bullshit. Um, so one of the big barriers that adds here to uh, to the lack of knowledge in fitness is all of these traps and all of these scammers that are trying to sell you absolute bullshit. But it makes sense that people get trapped because of the desire and the underlying emotional response. Um, so my take on a lot of this is just to try to break away all of their bullshit claims and get down to what the reality is. I got someone in the chat as 0xD1D0, a beautiful voice. Thank you very much. That's nice to hear. I've wondered quite often what my students think when I am talking or lecturing on video or over recording. Uh, I'm pretty sure everybody has a bit of a cringe response when they hear their own voice, especially on a telephone or on a voice recording or some sort. But thank you. So thank you very much. That does mean a lot. Voice of an old soul in a young body. I do like to think of myself as young still. I did just crest the ripe age of 30 recently, so 30 does seem, or I guess it sounds different than 20s, but Not a lot has really changed. Um, Old soul, I bet you a lot of people would agree with that. I like to keep things pretty quiet, pretty nice and easy. All right, so let's go. I'll go look for some health and fitness myths and or questions, I guess, and just try and riff on some of those. So I pulled up something here. It's just like the common health and fitness myths. Lots of people are getting into it, and the crypto community, especially the Hex community, does seem quite into lifting or exercise in general, which is awesome to see. Oh yeah, the other thing I was going to mention about the barriers to health and fitness, or the potential of health and fitness knowledge being so applicable here in the crypto space, is that I think the crypto space, especially people who work in this industry or are heavily involved, are going to be much more affected than the general population. Now, the general population already is is in a very, very bad trend as we see it. Activity is going way down. Waistlines are going up. There's tons of bad data. But in the crypto space, they might even be more heavily affected because of the nature of the position if you're working in it or if you spend a lot of time in it. I know since I got involved in crypto, there's days when I'm not working that I'll spend like 6, 7, 8 hours just sitting in front of my computer. I absolutely love sitting here and just kind of weaving my way through the dark corners of the web, trying to find information about projects or coins or how to make passive income or earn where I can. I absolutely love it. So I think there is a massive community like me that does things like that because because they're attracted to the potential gains. And then I think there's a massive community that's also working in this industry, and the nature of that work is being at a desk. So I do think there is a chance that the crypto community is at a higher risk than the average population. Okay, let's go look for one of these myths, and I'll just riff on it for a bit. I guess 27. 27 was I loved 27. I would say 26, 27, 28 were some of my favorite years in terms of like physical physical age. I've noticed a couple things. I guess I said not much has changed, but I guess I've noticed a few things. I can't eat as much anymore is probably the biggest one. All right, myth number one. I have no idea what website I'm on here on NBC News. So I don't know if I like them or not, but let's go see what they say are some of the biggest myths. So they say maybe I should try to share my screen, but that could be dangerous. I could absolutely dox the shit out of myself. Let's try it, shall we? I think Restream has a pretty good thing for this. Oh yeah, and I did say I was going to talk about, there's a few airdrops that I'm trying to prep for right now, so I'll talk about those too a little bit later. If I forget, if there's people still here in chat, please remind me. So one of the things I've been doing is I'm streaming inside of Restream, but I'm watching my YouTube stream, which is pretty funny because I don't think there's any way to see the comments over here. All right, double check to make sure I'm not showing any sensitive information. I think that looks good to me, or good enough, I think. Maybe I'll pull this over here. Oh yeah, because I'm going to want to be able to see the chat just in case. All right, so myth number one that I found from the people at NBC News is that you should stretch before you work out. I do hear that a lot, and I'll bet you all of you have heard that. Now, what the heck do they say here? I'm not even going to read what they say. I'm just going to take the myth and try and break it down. So stretching before you work out is probably a pretty common recommendation. Um, the thing here, or the idea here, that they are probably going to try to condemn is that stretching does not always help with performance. Now, I wouldn't completely condemn stretching before working out. You can do it if you like to do it or if you want to do it. The one exercise physiology mechanism that you're going to play with here is your reflex response. So if you are preparing to do a extremely powerful, explosive, or heavy lift, then stretching is not a great idea. especially static stretching that gets you to close to the end of your range of motion for long periods of time, right? So if you're an athlete, or especially in athletic events, so static, long, long hold stretches are not good ideas for athletes or for people trying to perform high power, explosive, or high effort or high load movements. And the reason is that if you stretch towards the end of your range of motion, is that you engage what is called this Golgi tendon response. It's part of your reflex mechanism, which actually shortens up your muscle length. It's kind of a protective, or the theory is that it's a protective mechanism as you get closer to the end of your range of motion. There are these what I'll call tissues or organs inside of your muscle and at the musculotendinal joint called the Golgi tendon organ. That's at the tendon joint. And then inside of the muscle are muscle spindles. So they can sense some different properties of tension, speed, lengthening, shortening, things like that. When the muscle stretches, it's typically lengthening. So the speed at which it's lengthening is something the muscle spindles can look at, and then the tension on the tendon where the muscle attaches to the joint is something that the Golgi tendon can sense. And as it approaches the ceiling of that individual, it's going to start to try to protect them by either engaging some sort of response in the antagonist muscle. So if I was to stretch, let's say my bicep towards its very like the range of motion at the very end, and it gets close to a point where again there's no way to really objectively give you a value here, but where your Golgi tendon organ thinks, holy smokes, there's a lot of tension over here on the tendon, guys. I think we should rethink this, right? If you're going to continue to stretch and stretch and stretch and stretch, it will engage an antagonistic contraction where the to get you out of that position. And then from that point onwards, your muscle is going to be in a shorter position. So then, if you go to try and do some sort of high speed or powerful or extremely heavy lift using that muscle, you will have a shorter muscle length than is what's that word I'm looking for here? Than is not needed, than is optimal. So if it's shorter, so a shorter muscle length is fine, but it's not optimal, especially when we're talking about performance, right? If you're a professional athlete, you don't want to be giving up 1%. Don't want to be giving up 0.1%. If you're trying to do a one rep max, you want your entire muscle length. So that is one of the reasons that you'll see like a lot of health and fitness people, or I would say the more sciencey end in the health and fitness world, will say don't stretch before you work out. Now, the context and nuance are of absolute max are essential here. You should stretch before you work out is not necessarily a myth, but if I'm about to go play football, then I don't think you should be static stretching for long periods of time. I think dynamic stretching, where you're just moving through a range of motion, where you're not going as far as you can towards the end of a range of motion, and where you're not holding it, where you're just moving through different motions and movements. So dynamic stretching is definitely useful for lots of people. Um, if you're preparing for a one rep max or an athletic event, I don't think I would prescribe it unless an individual notes some sort of um, like dysfunction in their performance. I'm first and foremost a huge proponent of a light warm up through some sort of aerobic or cardiovascular motion, whatever your favorite one is. I like walking, jogging, running, biking, rowing. Doesn't really matter to me. Any one of those does the trick. Gets your blood moving, gets your heart rate up, gets your body temperature up. There's a whole bunch of really good things to get you prepared to work out and doesn't have any of those potential negative effects of static stretching. So I think if I was going to read, I'm not going to read what the NBC people have to say, but that's what a lot of the sciencey people will say. They'll say, "Hey, don't stretch before you work out." And it's like, well, like if you want to stretch, sure, go ahead. But like holding a static stretch for a long time is what can have negative impacts on performance. Myth number two, running on a treadmill puts less stress on your knees than running on pavement. I'm not even going to talk about this one. This seems ridiculous to me. Depends on the surface, depends on the running technique. There's so many different things there. I don't even, that's brutal. Myth number three, lifting weights will bulk a person up. All right, well, that is the goal for a lot of people when lifting weights. So I hope it bulks you up if you do it correctly. I think again, what they're looking for here is the common, not stereotype, or the common um, idea that women here that keep them away or deter them from weightlifting is that lifting weights will make you bulky, and women don't want to be bulky more or less or on average. Now, lifting weights has the potential to bulk you up. When I say bulk, I'm just going to say add mass, in particular, add muscle mass. But the bigger factor here will be the nutrition aspect. You will not bulk up overnight. It takes a lot of concerted and consistent effort to actually visibly or noticeably bulk up. It's super easy to bulk up without lifting weights. It's very easy. Ask almost anybody. You can sit on your ass and you can bulk up doing nothing. Now, lifting weights can add muscle mass, but it takes a lot of time. We usually, so on average, if you see an absolute noob, so most people are, I think, fairly aware that people who are brand new to resistance training or lifting weights will experience pretty significant gains in their first stage of lifting. So I'll call it like their first 6 months to a year, as opposed to somebody who's been lifting for a while. Even somebody who is brand new to lifting weights, most of the research out there shows that there's no actual muscle growth until at least 6 weeks into training. Now, you will be able to find some papers that might say a few different things, but the heavy majority of them say it's 6 weeks. So I'm pretty comfortable to say 4 to 6 weeks is when we start to see muscle growth. And even then, that is just when we start to see it. To say you're going to get bulky from lifting weights is an absurd claim. Um, so I'll try to address what I think is the actual myth they're saying is that women might be nervous or scared of looking too bulky from lifting weights. And I would try to just absolutely throw that idea and that feeling aside. That is, if you do look too bulky, it is an easy, easy fix. And for women especially, I highly, highly recommend getting into resistance training earlier rather than later because you are going to be more significantly affected than the male sex later on in life when you go through when you lose your menstrual cycle, when you go through amenorrhea, when you go through menopause, you will significantly lose bone mass and bone density much faster than your male counterpart. So there is a much higher premium or importance, in my opinion, for women to resistance train more so than males. Now, I think absolutely everybody should be doing it and trying to get to the greatest amount of bone mass and bone density that you can while you can still improve it. And for pretty much everybody, that happens happens until somewhere in like your 60s, unless you are in an expert or an advanced level of training. I got someone else over here in the chat. I've got Eric Conklin. What happened? I'm not sure what you're referring to. Maybe try and follow up with me there in chat. Currently, I'm just going through. I didn't get any questions in the Twitter threads that I posted. I think I just tried to post something on Instagram. I didn't get anything. It turns out I was quite ill prepared, and this streaming software on my end has also thrown me for a massive loop. It was not what I thought it was going to look like. Um, so the one question was, why does the Hex T-share price only go up? And now I'm going through some common health and fitness questions and talking to anybody who decides to hop into chat. Let's go see, and let's go look for another one. So that is the myth about bulking up, and it is extremely hard to bulk up. Myth number 4 from these NBC people, your muscle will turn into fat if you stop working out. Oh my God. Um, no, right? So I guess they are saying it's a myth, so I shouldn't have disdain for the NBC people. But this, again, this is a very common idea. And when I scroll through Instagram or I'll say fitness Instagram or fitness Twitter, it is just a mess of a place. Lots of them uh, support all of these crazy ideas that are just not true. So if you see somebody saying something about muscle turning into fat, it is absolutely nonsensical. Nonsensical. You can waste muscle, but it doesn't turn into fat. It breaks down into amino acids. And then you'll either excrete those or use those to go build muscle somewhere else. Or you can even throw them back into one of your metabolic processes to create ATP, which is your energy, your fuel. So muscle does not turn into fat if you stop working out. You can lose muscle, right? When you stop working out, you will almost certainly lose muscle if you stop using it, right? If you don't feel sore the day after you work out, so another myth from the NBC people, if you don't feel sore the day after you work out, you did not train hard enough. A Actually, I like that they have this one up here as a myth. This is good because a lot of people, even in my family, and I don't really get after them, but I'll just like kind of make a face at them now. They'll say, "Wow, I'm so sore today," and they'll be like kind of proud of themselves, or they'll kind of contribute that or use that as evidence for a great workout, whereas that is not necessarily the case at all. Soreness is an absolute enigma. Like we don't know a ton about soreness. Usually, when you first start training, so there's a good amount of evidence to say when you first start training, you'll experience a great deal more soreness than somebody who's been training for a while. To say, or the idea that you should be sore after you work out is, I mean, I kind of understand it, I guess. It's evidence that you've done something, but in my world, if I'm talking to somebody who I'm training or coaching or whatever it might be, you don't want to be sore. If you are sore, it usually means you've gone too far with training, usually. And now you're having trouble recovering. Recovery is an extremely important thing, if not the most important thing when creating a training program, because you want your recovery to be optimal in order to allow for greater amounts of training or greater volume, whatever, if it's lifting or if it's cardiovascular, if it's aerobic. So this I like that they have this up here. I think this is one that's not talked about a lot, and you should not be gauging your workouts out of soreness. You should be using metrics, Excel, pen and paper, an app, whatever it might be, to try and incorporate progressive overload, where over time from point A to point B, month to month, week to week, year to year, whatever it is, there is more volume, so more weight being moved or more miles being run at a higher intensity or for a longer period of time. There's lots of ways to program in progressive overload. So that was a really quick search that I did looking for some of the common fitness myths because I did not get any questions for the stream. Or I did get that one. I apologize. So let's see if I can find a couple other quick ones. I'll try to rip through those really quick. Yeah, let's look at this one. Top 10 frequently asked fitness questions. This is from, who knows? Let's riff on this. Do I need to work out every day? Oh, my stream is behind. I will wait for a second. Oh, or just the YouTube stream is behind. This is going to take some getting used to. Maybe I could give you guys the link for my instructor sessions. Do I need to work out every day? Absolutely not. Some people will say do not work out every day, and it's also not, also can work out every day. So again, totally is going to depend on the individual, the context, the situation, yada, yada, yada. You'll almost always hear me preface responses with context or nuance or a certain situation because if we're trying to talk about actual programming for the masses, it's really, really tough to do. If I'm talking to a general population, I would try to set them up on a 3 to 5 day per week program, probably starting on the lower end of things, because that is much more adherable than every single day. How long to work out for? Again, changes from person to person, from goal to goal. If we're talking about resistance training, again, if I'm talking to the average individual that I just mentioned, I'll probably start with a 2 to 3 day per week program, maybe even a 1 day per week program to start. Lots when I'm talking about the average individual or the general population, you have to realize that the majority of them do nothing. The heavy majority of them are not meeting physical activity guidelines, let alone exercise guidelines. So to think that we should automatically jump to some of the recommendations. So the recommendation is 3 to 5 days per week, 2 to 3 sets, 8 to 10 reps of most major muscle groups. To think that we should jump to there, I've got a pretty big problem with that. But that is like a pretty common practice. Um, so this is actually one of the things that my thesis and my research project directly looked at or directly investigated was looking at different resistance training programs in beginners, people who were not untrained and sedentary, so they just on on average didn't do anything for physical activity throughout the week, and we looked at what the traditional guidelines were compared to a few other programs that were much more minimal and tried to compare strength outcomes and muscle outcomes. And in that beginner phase, number one, I think the most important thing should be something that the individual can adhere to. And then number two, the 1 day per week was just as good as the 3 day per week program in not in the study I performed. So that's my take on exercise prescription, especially when we're talking about general population or people who are brand new to exercise. Um, got a comment here in the chat. My yoga teacher claimed to be envious of my after session soreness. He remembered the feeling fondly. It was proof of workout. Yeah. Whenever I get sore, I usually get mad at myself now. I'm like, I don't want to be sore. It does happen. If you take a pretty long break from training, it will traditionally happen again at the onset of a training program. Um, but once you've been training consistently for a couple months, you shouldn't experience any like significant soreness. Also, you might experience tightness, or you'll definitely notice some things, right? You should be able to tell you worked out the day before. But people who are talking like, yeah, proud or looking for or fond of feeling sore or like being barely able to walk, it's like this is not the goal. This is not what we're looking for. How can I increase lean muscle mass? The simplest answer to this is to lift weights and eat more protein. Majority of people are not getting enough protein, um, but also you don't have to overdo it. A lot of again in the health and fitness Twitter or Instagram, there's lots of people saying like two grams per pound or 1 gram per pound, and lots of that is not even necessary. I find that ladies in general, so on average, ladies have a tougher time getting their protein or enough protein compared to males. You're usually looking, so a good place to start would be 1 gram of protein per kilogram of weight. So 1 kilo is 2.2 pounds. So if you weigh 220 pounds, that is 100 kilos. So 1 gram, so 100 grams of protein, which is 400 calories. So it's not that difficult to do. Now, most of the people who are having difficulty aren't that heavy, and they're usually eating much less. So that's kind of why it affects the female sex a little bit more. So increased muscle mass in general, lean muscle mass. So lean muscle mass usually referring to muscle tissue itself. I'm not sure why the increased lean muscle mass. So this term actually makes zero sense to me. Lean muscle mass, we could just say muscle mass. This is thrown in here just for fun, just for shits and giggles, I guess. Muscle mass is lean mass. When we're breaking down the different compartments or components of body composition, we refer to fat mass and fat-free mass. Oftentimes people will call this fat mass and lean mass, I think. Maybe that's like some UK nomenclature. I have no idea. But lean muscle mass is an oxymoron. So maybe it's just trying to say, how can I put on muscle without putting on fat? And that is a better question, I think, and that's something that it is extremely tough to do. You might see this in your noob phase, so when you're brand new to weightlifting, you can see this. If you're losing a lot of weight, you can see this. Or if you're really, really overweight, you can see this. You can actually lose fat and add muscle. But for somebody who's like pretty average, if you're putting on weight, you're usually putting on both components. You'll be putting on both muscle and fat. Now you can try to optimize the proportion that you put on. So a little bit less fat and more muscle, but as opposed to if you're eating way over your caloric limit, you could be putting on a lot of both, right? So you can try to optimize for the amount that you're putting on, but in general, if you are adding mass, you're probably putting on both muscle and fat. All right, I'll pause there for a sec and let's maybe talk about some crypto stuff. What is the one? I was going to talk about one of the airdrops that I'm preparing for. Oh man, I think this is safe. Nothing crazy going here. So the one airdrop that I am currently preparing for or hoping is to come is for Unisync or ZK Sync, sorry. ZK Sync is a layer 2 solution for Ethereum using zero knowledge proofs. It's going to be very, very helpful with taking load off of the Ethereum network. So you can find them at zksync.io. There's a whole bunch of stuff here that you can read about and learn. The one thing that I've done so far to try to prepare for this is gone to uni.zksync.io. And this is basically the fork of Uniswap for Unisync. You can launch their app. And this is zkSync's swap front end. So if you've used MetaMask, I'm guessing you have if you're in the Hex community. One thing that I'm doing to maybe fall into their category or meet their criteria for an airdrop is that I'm going to connect a wallet to their site, to their website, and I'm going to try and get some testnet tokens, and then I'm going to do a couple swaps. I think that my next step that I haven't done yet with some of my other wallets is to actually add. So over here, I think they've got a wallet. Yeah, they've got a wallet here. So you can send from L1, you can send from the ETH network to ZK Sync wallet already. Now with the current ETH gas fees, that's going to be pretty uh, pretty cost heavy as opposed to this first step. So if there is one of these days that comes up, if there is a low gas time that happens, I might try and send some actual ETH to this wallet. But the first step is first just connecting here. I want to switch my network. So they are operating on the Rinkeby testnet. So I'll go there. I am using, I'm going to switch to a different account and connect. Come on. And here we go. This is one of my accounts that I have not connected yet. So now we're connected to the Uni ZK Sync. We're just going to request. And now it used to make you actually send out a full tweet, but I think they've actually optimized it to where it is just ready to go. My tokens have been claimed. I've got, what did they give me? They gave me some DAI, they gave me some Link, some USDC, some wrapped Bitcoin. So I'm just going to make a couple of swaps inside of here. I'm going to buy some, I don't know, some USDC. Sure, we'll sign a few transactions. You'll notice it is extremely fast. Swap, swap, sign, boom. So it took 0.185 seconds. They said a few things. Do I have my Telegram open right now? They sent a few things in their Telegram saying that they had a way more expected vol or way more volume than they had expected. So there was a time, I think it was last week, when it was having some issues. So maybe I'll do one more swap here for some corn. Allow, sign. All right, so I've done a few things on their testnet. I've connected to their Uniswap front end or their Uniswap fork for ZK Sync. The one thing, again, the one thing that I will probably do in the future here is I'll probably migrate some ETH or something, probably some ETH, over to my ETH wallet here on ZK Sync, so on the L2. And that's one of the airdrops. The other one that a lot of people in our community have talked about, most notably Motley, is the MetaMask airdrop. Can go try and look for that alpha right now. What the heck is that guy's name? Lubin, I think. Joseph Lubin, co-founder of or founder of ConsenSys. He helped out with the founding of Ethereum. He recently made a full reference to the Mask token. Where the heck is it? I think I retweeted it actually. Here we go. So somebody thinks that MetaMask is going to have to airdrop a token now because Coinbase Wallet is going to be widely available as a browser extension in the same way that MetaMask is currently. This guy, some reporter or something, says it's not going to happen. JP Morgan owns 10% of MetaMask control entity. They don't want tokens on their balance sheet. And this is the cool tweet right here. This is where Lubin came back at him. Andrew, ConsenSys has thousands of tokens on our balance sheet. ConsenSys is vigorously controlled by its employees, which includes me, and we are driving towards decentralization of several of our projects. When mask? Stay tuned. When objective journalism, sir? Lol. I've been loving this meme, this sir stuff. So I would say I would call this like when was it that I made a few other accounts to try to prepare for it after watching Motley talk about it, Motley Investor. And that was, I want to say, like 6 months ago, maybe more. I'm not sure. If you go to his channel, he's probably got a video on it. I would call this almost certainty, in my opinion. 90, I'm going to say 90% certain. Unless he's playing. This to me is not playing. This is the mask token is coming. So prepare in any way, shape, or form that you can. So my preparation for that, well, first, number one, I would reference you to Motley Investor's channel. He had a big deep dive into what he was doing, I think, and I'm pretty sure I followed his steps, exactly what he did. So one of the things you can do to prepare is to, number one, be a user of MetaMask. And the one thing that we think, or that a lot of people think, I think, again, this is just going off of what Motley's thoughts were, is that you might need to use the actual swap function in MetaMask. So on the ETH network, to swap some coins using the MetaMask swap. And if you're in the Hex community, you're pretty familiar with Uniswap, 1inch, Matcha, whatever it might be, and how you're able to save gas fees by using limit orders, especially currently in the current gas environment, because this swap is going to cost you a lot of gas, plus MetaMask takes a pretty hefty percent. I think they take almost 1%, 0.85 or 0.9% of each swap or something like that. So one way that they could set their restrictions to receive the airdrop is users who have actually used this swap, use the swap function. Now, if you want to use it on ETH, again, watch for a low gas time. But the thing that I just noticed last week, and I don't like I must have just been sleeping or something. Maybe other people have talked about this, is that on some of these other networks, so MetaMask can integrate with a whole bunch of these other networks just by changing your RPC. On something like Matic or on Polygon, you can actually swap using MetaMask. So again, there is a chance that using the swap on Polygon might not qualify you for their airdrop, but it also might, and it's super cheap. So I don't think I've got 0 tokens in this account, but um, I think like it's going to cost you peanuts compared to Ethereum. I want to say like 10 cents compared to like, I don't know, $100 on ETH. So there's a swap here on Polygon or Matic if you use Polygon or Matic at all. And there's another one that supports it. It was Binance Smart Chain. If you can swap on Binance Smart Chain if you have anything over there. Again, I think this will be a little bit more expensive than Matic, but you're using the MetaMask swap function, and this is potentially one of the qualifiers to get the airdrop. There is a chance that it might have to be done on ETH. I don't know. So I'm going to keep my eye pretty close on the gas price from here on out and watch for times when gas is low and try to do some swaps on ETH, even though it freaking sucks. Sucks a big one. Place that I always watch for gas is on Etherscan. I go to the gas tracker, and this gives you a pretty good idea. So lots of times I'll just have this open in one of my tabs. And right up here, you'll be able to see a running total. And I think it refreshes should show you right here. So it just refreshed there. I thought there was a little counter here. Oh yeah, here we go. Refreshes every 15 seconds, I think. So every 15 seconds or so, you'll get an update on your gas price up here, right in this tab. You don't have to go there. You don't have to open it. There might be an app or something for this that does it a little bit better. This is what I've been using, and it's been pretty darn reliable. So I usually have this open just up here at the far left of one of my tabs. And if I ever notice that it's somewhere down, like if below 100, like these days, below 100 is good, which is crazy. For a swap, it'd be nice if you could get it below 50, save some money. But I might start prioritizing swapping as opposed to low gas because of this tweet from Lubin. So that is the other airdrop that I'm prepping for, or trying to prepare for, I guess. Unisync, they just held a community chat the other day, and they did get quite a few questions about tokens, and they were very, very conspicuous about it. They said lots of like legal terminology, like I would like to, like they didn't want to address any questions on the token at this time, which just again to me gives me really, really good high certainty that a token is going to come for Unisync. And if you have read up on Unisync or investigated them at all, I do think they have a really, really good chance to be the layer 2 of all layer 2s. Layer 2s being like actual layer 2s, not layer 1s. So I would call, like lots of people refer to Polygon or Matic as a layer 2. I would deem it a layer 1. Like all these other blockchains themselves, like Phantom, Solana, what else we have up here? Binance Smart Chain. Arbitrum is, I can't remember between Arbitrum and Optimism what the heck's going on here. Phantom layer 1, Avalanche layer 1, right? XDAI I think is a layer 2, but layer 2, I am really, really excited to see how ZK Sync and Unisync and if their token rolls out to see what happens there. Hopefully that will help with the freaking ETH gas prices. And if it doesn't help, well, we all know, especially people in the Hex community, that we have something else coming down the pipe there. And actually, let's go look up that tweet that I just saw today from Abit. He dropped some potential alpha. I have no idea. I didn't read through all the comments here in this tweet, what his source is here. But he says Pulse Chain Mainnet going to start. I am not sure if that is true or not. There was some speculation that the Snapchat was taking place kind of recently, and there has been some reference to this days. Again, I can't give you more specifics than that. I don't remember any of the specifics, but I'm super excited for Pulse Chain. I think we're getting close, or at least I hope we're getting close. My inclination is, or I guess if I was going to guess, I would guess December 2nd, Hex's birthday, plus the London meetup, something like that. But who knows? If it's here then, awesome. If it's here after that, that's all right. All right, that is 2 o'clock. So I'm gonna try and stream for an hour. We'll see how many people I continue to get, but that's 2 o'clock Pacific time. I'm gonna try and do it on Wednesdays as opposed to Thursday. When I went to create my YouTube studio account, it wouldn't let me live stream right away. It said some sort of bullshit about confirming the account or yada yada yada. So I've already had my first run in with YouTube and streaming. I'm going to try to do these on Wednesdays. Maybe I'll do them weekly on Wednesdays for a little bit and see what the engagement, what the interest is, and maybe we'll drop down to once a month or bi-weekly or something like that. So that is 201. I am going to stop there. So we talked about some health and fitness, talked about some airdrop, some crypto stuff. I like talking about it all, health and fitness and crypto, and pretty much any topic. But for those of you who are still here, thank you so much for tuning in. Thank you for your questions. And I will hope to see you and some others next time. Bye for now.